Hey guys, so for the topic of this discussion, I actually chose Bali. Bali is considered the vacation destination for many reasons. It's beautiful, it's affordable, it's outside of the United States, so if you really want to travel, it's your place to go. And you can actually afford to pay your bills when you get back. So Bali, which is known as the Island of the Gods, is part of a collective of islands that's a little, I want to say, like southwest of Indonesia. They actually have a very rich and diverse culture by Balinese Hinduism. So Bali is famous for its arts, such as like dance, drama, sculpture, painting, leather, metalworking, music. And the Balinese people have a presidential representative democratic republic government. So basically, where the president is like both head of the state as well as like head of the government. The Balinese culture is actually expressed through its ceremonies, festivals, temples. The currency is actually called the Indonesian rupiah, and it is about 64 10,000ths of the US dollar, which in comparison is like spending a US dollar on a banana. Yeah, so fun fact, Bali actually produces the world's most expensive coffee, which is made from the droppings of a civet cat. Thought that was pretty interesting. So the Balinese culture places great emphasis on interconnectedness, harmony within social groups, and fulfilling communal obligations. While as the U.S. just kind of values individualism, such as emphasizing personal freedom, autonomy, self-expression. In shorter words, the people of Bali are team players. Whereas like here in the US, we kind of prefer things like individual. Like we like to do things on our own. When comparing Bali to the US in terms of high and low context communication, Balinese people seem to be more in tune with one another. They share similarities with other Asian cultures. There's an emphasis on implicit communication, nonverbal cues, shared cultural understanding. The communication often relies heavily on context, subtle gestures, and indirect expressions to convey meaning, reflecting a collectivist orientation where harmony and relationships are prioritized. In comparison, the US tends to be more of a low context communication culture where explicit verbal communication is emphasized. Messages are typically straightforward and direct. Americans value clarity, definitely precision and efficiency in communication, with less reliance on like implicit cues and shared cultural understanding. When it comes to the people of Bali, they are so heavily influenced by its cultural and religious traditions that they tend to tolerate a higher level of uncertainty. They kind of embrace the unknown as part of like life's natural flow, whereas Americans kind of seek to minimize ambiguity, and kind of like maintain control of outcomes. Bali is unified when it comes to the people. They tend to cooperate with one another to diminish the possibility of chaos. They're driven by religion heavily, and they do value collaboration. The US, on the other hand, is, a little different. Well, kind of a lot of different. We live in a very competitive society. So like business, schooling, sports, it's always, we're looking for that stepping stone. We're trying to get higher, but, higher than the other person. We don't really kind of do things as a collective, I guess. Even though cooperation does exist in the US, there's often a greater emphasis on individual initiative and competition as a means to excel. Now, ever since I was a child, I have always wanted to travel to Bali and possibly relocate there. Since the culture is so different than here in the US, there are definitely going to be a few culture shocks. Since the island is predominantly Hindu, the local custom is conservative. So no, like men cannot walk around topless. And women are actually encouraged, especially tourists, to cover their shoulders and their knees. And that's just because they're conservative. Another shock would probably be the barter system. In America, like when you walk into a souvenir shop, you're expected to pay what is on that price tag. And then in Bali, they tend to let the tourist choose the price as long as it isn't like a low ball. Since the currency stretches so much further over there, what we typically pay for a banana is their form of a dollar. So, we come across like a small little trinket and, their version could be, the 64 10,000ths of a dollar. We would offer $2 to $3, obviously. And a few more to add, Balinese people actually eat with their hands. I prefer my fork and spoon. Maybe the occasional chopsticks if I ever learn how to use them properly. But the people there can also be very handsy. It's actually their way of showing friendliness. They like to shake your hand, give you a hug. It's part of their culture. But like I said before, Bali is definitely a vacation destination for most, but behind the nice beaches and pretty views, there is a richness and culture that bring on curiosity that I hope to one day explore. Thank you for listening, and I hope to hear from everyone.